Hi friends, my name is Alyssa. I want to share with you some of the books I've recently finished. I have 6 books to talk about, 2 that I DNF'd and 2 that I really loved, so let's get started. I'm going to talk about these in the order that I finished them, which means that we're going to start with the 2 books that I did not finish first. Unfortunately, that's kind of a low note to start on, but then it only goes up from there. So the first book, which I didn't finish, was The Overstory by Richard Powers. This is generally a really popular book, and so I'm not gonna lie, I was very surprised and quite disappointed to not like it in the end. In fact, some booktubers who I really feel like I have a similar style to loved it, and I'm not sure I can put my finger exactly on what went wrong for me with this book. This book is rather creative and a little bit different. It's essentially has a large cast of characters who all have their individual stories revolving around their relationship with trees in some way, and the book format starts off with introducing these characters individually with essentially short stories, individual short stories, as the characters have nothing to do with each other. They're not related at all. And then after you have about 12 short stories, there's a change in writing style or format of the book, and you transition into a traditional fiction narrative style. Stories start to overlap and characters start to slowly run into each other and produce a more cohesive narrative where they're all involved. I think that my biggest problem with this book was the bait and switch of that writing format right there. And the reason why it was problematic for me was that the short story style worked so well. When I first picked up this book, I loved it. I was super excited about it. I was really drawn back to picking it up. But once we shifted to the more traditional narrative format, I just didn't think that some of the author's strengths didn't play out very well in that format, or just the experience of the bait and switch, where I felt like I'd loved this so much and then it shifted and it didn't work anymore for me, which might seem like a bit of an overreaction to stop reading the book there, but I did get to the point where it sat on my shelf not being read for literally months, and then every time I picked it up again, I would just consciously thought to myself, I'm so bored, and would put it down. I do think that this book has a lot of literary merit. I don't blame anyone who did like it. I think that it just didn't suit me. I don't know. Share with me your thoughts down below, but that was the first book that I didn't finish. The second book I'm going to talk about, which I also did not finish, is Now We Shall Be Entirely Free by Andrew Miller. It is about an officer who fought in the Napoleonic Wars. He has some flashback and PTSD that he's dealing with from experiences that he had in Spain, and he is traveling up to Scotland. I can't even remember why, and there's someone in the military that's chasing after him. Let's see, I got 200 pages that I just started, always feeling bored when I picked this up. I do think it's worthwhile that the author painted an unflinching and unapologetic portrait of the terror of the Napoleonic Wars on Spain, but this just wasn't a good book for me. I am incredibly picky on my historical fiction, and I've found I'm especially disinterested in historical fiction that involves war. I think I should have known better. I never should have picked it up. The next book I finished, all of you have heard. It is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn, Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is a book that I not only have done a review on, but I did a 2-part review, one where I shared my thoughts on the book, and then one where I was a little more critical about the things I didn't like about the book, and audaciously how I thought it could be improved upon, proposing an alternative ending. If you're interested in that juicy bit, please go check it out. I did have a lot of thoughts. In the end, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, but I thought that the themes and ideas of the complexity and nuance of identity and the development of identity and how we use labels and how not conforming to the labels that society wants to put on you or your relationships, those kinds of things, I thought those were very interesting ideas that the author was discussing, and I thought that she used the format of the book in a way that allowed for an interesting discussion of those ideas. I also thought in the end that they weren't executed as well as they could have been, and I definitely thought that there were some loose ends of this book that weren't wrapped up very well, or that things were sort of built up too much and didn't follow through in the end. So like I said, 3 stars. I think it could have been better, but I don't think it's all that bad. The next book is the first 5-star read that I had in 2020, which is Winter by Ali Smith. I really enjoyed this book, obviously, first 5-star review. I have not filmed my review of this book, but I will definitely be doing one. This is part of a 4-book series. Autumn is the first in the series, and then winter is obviously second, followed by spring and summer. The plot of this story is really simple. It's about a family gathering together over Christmas. 2 sisters who have not gotten along and have very different world perspectives, and the son of one of the sisters who recently had a breakup but doesn't want to come and be empty-handed to his mother's Christmas, so he hires a girl to come with him to pretend to be his girlfriend. That's the plot, but it's also not really what the book is about. The book is a very tight and sophisticated execution of a lot of interesting themes, especially surrounding the ideas of the stories we tell ourselves and the narratives we choose to believe about the world and about ourselves. It's about miscommunication and finding how you relate to the world. It's also about what's fake and what's real and how it's hard to keep track of reality. I thought that the author did an amazing job of using literary techniques to explore these ideas. The physical words and format and creative writing style that Ali Smith uses is so complementary to her themes in a way I've actually never read in a book before, or not that I've read and sort of independently noticed and recognized and enjoyed so much, and I really want to pursue more of her literature. I'm very glad I read this book. Ali Smith is a very talented author. I will be doing a more comprehensive review for sure very soon, so please stick around for that. The next book I read is The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Jester. This is a really cute children's, or rather middle grade, book about a boy who discovers a phantom toll booth in his house, pays the toll booth to drive away, and ends up in this very fantastical world. He then goes on an adventure to find the lost princess's rhyme and reason. It's a book very similar to Alice in Wonderland. There's a lot of nonsense in the book, but it mostly is focused on witty wordplay and puns. Probably my most confusing thing coming away from this book. I fell in this really odd place where I felt that this age demographic that would appreciate the plot would be too young to appreciate what was actually really clever and intelligent about the book. I ended up giving it a 3-star because I didn't find the book incredibly compelling or interesting to read, but then it was very witty and funny. I also think it's a bit unremarkable. I don't think I'll remember it, but I think if I had read this younger, perhaps in a 5th grade classroom or something like that, then I think I would have really liked it. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, or you know someone in that age demographic, this is definitely a fun one. So the last book to talk about in this video is The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. This I loved. I really, really love this book. I also gave this book 5 stars. This book is a bit hard to describe in a way that actually sounds compelling. It is quite simply the story of a butler who goes on a road trip. It takes place post World War II, about the 1950s. This book is really, really quiet and very simple, and follows just sort of his musings and thoughts as he drives through the countryside. And I know that sounds so boring, but there's something very enchanting about this book. There's something just very compelling about our main character, Mr. Stevens. The character, being this very proper man that he is, has this beautiful way of describing things and thinking about things, and it just sort of pulls you along in this gentle and comfortable, cozy ride as you go along with him. There's nothing super sensational about it. There are some very interesting ideas that I thought are very gently introduced and mused over. It doesn't hit you over the head with any kinds of themes or things like that. And there is a really cuteness to it as well. It's a bit bittersweet in parts, but in the end, I really liked it. I thought it worked super well. It's just a simple and sweet and thoughtful and beautifully executed book. I will be doing an additional review on this book, probably just a really short one, but there are a few things I think are worth mentioning for anyone who might care. The main character in this book, Mr. Stevens, really reminded me of Count Alexander Gustave from A Gentleman in Moscow, which is a book I have reviewed on this channel, and at the moment it has the most views of any of my videos, so I have to assume that maybe some people here found my channel from that book. The book is a lot less complex in a lot of ways than A Gentleman in Moscow is, but I think it has a really similar tone and sort of pensive and thought-provoking and intelligent way of musing over sort of complex ideas, but doing it in a really simple and comprehensive way. If you liked that book, I think this would be worth giving a chance. That's all of the books that I recently read. As I mentioned before, I will link additional reviews down below, so please check that out if any of these books interest you, and I'll see you in a future video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!